Welcome to it, sports fans. It is the MKT Show, and I'm MKT, and it is Friday, 12th of February. Great to be here. It is the weekend. It means sport galore. Cannot wait. I just cannot wait. Great weekend coming up. The boxing's coming up. If you're into the MMA, of course, is that this weekend? I think there's a big UFC event this weekend. Not really a UFC guy. Not really my thing. I'm more of a boxing guy. But I'll watch it. I will watch the big fights. And I know, is it Adesanya who's up next? That'll be fun. He's always good fun. I'll watch Connor. But the boxing this weekend, that's going to be awesome. Warrington, if you're into boxing, he's special. He's obviously got to face Maurizio Lara. He had to defer his title or relinquish the title. That's awesome that he's done that. But there are super fights waiting on the other end for somebody who I think will be a boxing great in Josh Warrington. So looking forward to seeing him take care of Maurizio Lara. The rugby's back. Football's back. Premier League, big weekend in the Premier League. I think there's one or two teams, if they lose their Premier League hopes, although I think they're officially over for everybody. But this particular, the Reds of Liverpool, if they lose this weekend, it is done. It is done and dusted. And remember, I said they wouldn't make top four. So there's all that. I cannot wait for this weekend. And then the rugby's back. Speaking of rugby, I thought, with the Six Nations being back, Friday, of course, it is the Friday Five. So I will give, of course, my Friday Five. And this week, we're going to do the 5 greatest Northern Hemisphere rugby players of all time. I'd like to be very clear. I have little to no respect for Northern Hemisphere rugby. I never have. 2003 was their sort of, their day in the sun. But I've never had respect for Northern Hemisphere rugby. So much so that I never worry when South Africans go and play. It's the one sport. Maybe cricket, we sometimes lose our good ones. But we tend to hang on to our very good rugby players. The ones that go up north, it tends to be our B guys. And, I had some guys in my year, one who played center. He was at an opposition school who I knew quite well. He played for England for a little bit. And I think he just retired. Haven't spoken to him in a while. So, he was never going to be Jean de Villiers. So, yeah, I'll give you the 5 greatest Northern Hemisphere rugby players that I've ever seen. So not of all time, because I'm not 67. So I don't want to hear about the Williams of the 1958 British Lions. I never saw them. I'm old. I'm not that old. So yeah, give you that. And then City Spurs, I'll give you my predicted or my best 11 of that, and I'll give you my result there. All right, MKT Inspires on all social media platforms. Otherwise, Cliff Central Sport, Cliff C Sport on the Tweet Monster, which is Twitter, if you'd like to follow us. By the way, Betway Sport, myself and a guy called Ben Karpinski, who's very Polish. Very, very Polish guy, Ben Karpinski. We are doing a show called The Way to Go Show together. I give you a multiplier for the weekend, and you can go check that out. Go check it out on Betway SA's social media. So you can go check it out there. Otherwise, my social media, MKT Inspires. That's M for Mike, by the way. MKT Inspires on social media. All right, let's get into it. Let's finish up the weekend. Great to have you with me Friday evening. Hope you are well. It's getting a little nippy, by African standards. So we can feel the autumn coming on, starting to dip into the mid-20s in temperature. Oof. All right, let's get into it. The 5 greatest Northern Hemisphere rugby players that I've ever seen. At number 5, the only prop I've ever looked at from the Northern Hemisphere, and I thought, oh, scary. That is a scary guy. World Cup winner, just brilliant. Tight head of all tight heads. For me, again, another from the Leicester Tigers. Just ferocious. This guy was ferocious. Tremendous ball carrier. Underrated ball carrier in his time. Phil Vickery. Phil Vickery was an unbelievable, just the epitome. When you think British Bulldog, I always think Phil Vickery. Whenever I hear British Bulldog, the term, he is and looks like a British Bulldog. Absolute warrior of a rugby player. And just the greatest, I think, front rower they've ever produced up there. At number 4, the greatest backline player they've ever produced, Ireland's best ever. He's certainly the greatest Northern Hemisphere outside back I've ever seen. Not backline player, outside back, captain, leader, and he could have been French. Really, could have been a New Zealander with that flair that he had. I never quite rated him as highly as the Northern Hemisphere people did. I think Tana Umanga kind of yeah, put that smoke to bed. Jacques Fourie, who we had down here, was a different level to him. I just think we make them better down here. I think Ma'anonu even playing at 13, Conrad Smith. But this guy was great, and he's Ireland's greatest ever. He's the pride of Irish rugby. They call him Bod up there. Brian O'Driscoll is the fourth greatest rugby player the Northern Hemisphere has ever produced, I've ever seen. At number 3, the greatest loose forward I've ever seen that they've produced up there. Look, all in hand, unstoppable force. Line out, jumper, lifter, just all-round organizer. Never seemed to miss a tackle and was integral in that 03 team. I just think when I think of a loose forward, it wanted to look like tough as nails, but then he had the ball skills as well. It's something that was missing in the noughties, especially when they were winning. This guy was unbelievable as a loose forward. I think he's the complete loose forward. And I thought he was the MVP for England in that 03 victory. The great Richard is somebody. I don't want to see you. You shouldn't be flashing on my screen, but they're making big hits and delivering everything you're looking for on the dirty side of the game. And then that cross cover, of course, I expect that. And Richard Hill was just unbelievable, folks. 2003, go and rewatch that World Cup final. He was something else. So he's the greatest loose forward I've ever seen from the Northern Hemisphere. It was close between him and Thierry Dusautoir, some people say. I don't think so. I think Richard Hill separated himself for the all-round game that he possessed. Absolutely brilliant. And in 03, for me, the MVP for England in that victory. The top two, this is the greatest captain I think they've had up there. They've only really had one. And because great, you got to win the World Cup. And he was it. You know, he's the epitome of statesman-like. And what was great about him, and of course, we had Richie McCaw down here, and before him, we had Todd Blackadder, but McCaw was the guy. He led, you know what's tough is to hold two dynasties at the same time. This guy did that, and that tends to separate people from me. Leicester Tigers were unstoppable. Then European champions, English champions, multiple English champions, multiple European champions, and then he went on to win the World Cup as well. Just everything when you think of a leader and you look at him, you think warrior. Right, absolute legend, a leader for Leicester Tigers, leader for England, and the guy, right? The guy, when you needed it, when you needed the two ball, in what Fergie called squeaky bum time, you go to this guy, the one and only, the legendary. That term's overused. It is not lost on this guy. He is, wow. Martin Johnson is everything you want in a tight five rugby player. Everything you want. Leadership, tenacity, toughness. No excuses. He's the best forward Northern Hemisphere rugby's ever produced that I've seen. Keep in mind, I've only been watching rugby from 1994, but Martin Johnson is truly legendary, and his resume speaks for itself. At number 1, so Martin Johnson is the second greatest I've ever seen. The greatest rugby player I've ever seen. It's almost a waste to have to pick it, really. Listen, I'm not even going to go through his resume. He's got so many records. He's got all the records, right, in Northern Hemisphere rugby. His name's Johnny Wilkinson. I mean, let's not waste any time here. It's silly to try and sort of dance around this one. Wilkinson is it. He's the closest. He's probably the only rugby player from the Northern Hemisphere that I think would get into an all-time World 15 for me. Because I'd pick from the Springboks, the Australians, and probably us. But Johnny Wilkinson, I mean, come on. You know, he's so unlucky that he was born at the same time as Daniel Carter. Could you imagine that? I mean, it really is Leo Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Perhaps without Carter, you don't get Wilkinson. Perhaps they pushed each other. I mean, I'd take Daniel Carter any day, but Wilkinson, I mean, this is rarefied air. Every record in the book. And you know what I loved about Johnny is a lot of people I've heard them say he was an English nasporter. He was not. If anything, he was the opposite. You know, the kicking game was almost the bonus with Johnny. Outside of Matt Ghetto, right, who is, I've always said, Matt Ghetto is the best hitting sort of number 10 that I've ever seen. But Johnny Wilkinson's defense is the most ferocious thing you could ever wish for. He was hard as nails. He was unbeatable. You know what I believe was the great strength of that English team? Johnny Wilkinson locked down that first channel. So you had to do something special between 12, 13 and the outside gaps. He was unbelievable on defense. And, you know, we had Charlie Hodgson on the show a few months back. And he said the reason why, and Charlie, I mean, holds all the records for Newcastle and the Premiership records. So Charlie, no slouch himself. He said the difference between me and Johnny, and this is quote unquote Charlie Hodgson, he said Johnny could hit. He could defend that channel. So Johnny Wilkinson, it's outrageous that he was this good with the boot, tactically out of hand, and indeed going for poles. But I think Johnny's strength was his defense. He was better at defense than the rest of the stuff. He just happened to be ridiculous at the kicking stuff as well. Unbelievable rugby player. So at number 5, Phil Vickery. Number 4, Brian O'Driscoll. Number 3, Richard Hill. Number 2, Martin Johnson. And at number 1, Johnny Wilkinson. Vickery, O'Driscoll, Hill, Johnson, and the great Johnny Wilkinson. Just absolutely monstrous. Johnny was just... I remember when he came down to South Africa at the age of 19. I don't know if it was his debut, but it was really early on. And he kicked, I can't remember, was it 20 points or whatever he did? But he kicked all the points in the game, 20 or 21 points or something like that. And England beat South Africa when they never should have. They had like their second string team here. And he was 19. Like, who's this guy? And his defense just brutal. Great rugby player. And some legends on that list. And most of them English because they're the only team that have won a World Cup. You know, I don't talk to me about Six Nations. That's honestly, I think in the best days of Currie Cup rugby, some of our Currie Cup teams could beat these Northern Hemisphere teams, and definitely the Crusaders. I think the Hurricanes when they're at their best, and yeah, maybe not the rest, but the Crusaders are winning Six Nations every year, comfortably. But I just thought with Six Nations being back, I'd give you that. Mr. Wilkinson, Johnson, Hill, O'Driscoll, and Vickery, the top 5 of the greatest rugby players I've ever seen from the Northern Hemisphere. All right, let's take some comments from Rikus Swart. Rikus says, the 2003 Johnny Wilkinson was the best 10 that I've ever seen in rugby. Oof, it's tough for me. The problem for me is once you get Daniel Carter, you get that running game as well. Yeah. Fortunately, I can't go beyond Daniel, because for me, I just don't see what Johnny did better than Carter. You know, Carter was just a tank of an athlete. He could play fullback as well, which means he's got pace. I'm just not sure where Johnny's better than, and I'm not sure if Johnny could play 12. Remember, Carter started at 12, of course, for the Crusaders with the great Andrew Mertens as his, or he did an apprenticeship under Andrew Mertens. So I do love Johnny Wilkinson. I just can't see past Daniel Carter and everything he's done, because with Carter, you get all the kicking, so you get all the benefits of Johnny Wilkinson. You don't lose anything on the defense, plus you get the leadership of DC. But hey, listen, it's close. Wilkinson was special. Let's be honest. Just and clutch, big moments. I mean, sports is about moments. I mean, those drop kicks in pivotal moments were. What a player. And Rikus goes on to say, good luck getting through the channel, Wilkinson, Tyndall, and Greenwood. Yeah, listen, it was a lockdown. That team was built to win. You go England 1 to 15. That team was built, men that can all look after themselves. Before you build a team, if you want to be great, and that's what that team was, let's just be honest. That was a great team. They had a great coach who got it together. If you haven't seen the famous documentary, I forget what it's called, but you know, they talk about they had a block of cheese or chocolate, and I think it was once every year they were allowed chocolate or something like that, and they built that over 8 years, by the way. So Clive Woodward built that over 8 years, that culture, and then by the time they were in the final, you weren't going to beat that team. It was 15 men and even 18. You look at the bench, really a bunch of men who, if you want to be great, and it's nearly impossible to do this in life, right? Everybody in life likes to pass stuff off their plate. You know, we all work in an office. Oh, sorry, I'm late. Sorry, I'm this. But greatness is about everybody taking responsibility for what they have to do, right? And then you worry about the cohesion. And if you've got 20 men, grown men who are alpha athletes, alpha men, and you say, the great Bill Belichick, I believe, has been known to say this, coach of the New England Patriots, for those who don't know, the greatest dynasty in American sports, says, hey, check your ego at home. Don't leave it at the door. He says, don't leave it at the door, because if you leave your ego at the door, you might think, hey, let me go back and get it. Leave your ego at home. And to get alpha males to do that, folks, I'm not going to speak for women. I've never been in a high level sort of female dressing rooms. I don't know the dynamics. I just know from sports male dominated and alpha males, I've been around them, is the one thing they don't check is the ego. Woodward got them to check their ego for an 8-year period. 8 years he had these alpha males and just unstoppable. They were the fittest, the strongest, the best. And they were unstoppable. The tight five was unstoppable. Thompson, Vickery, Shaw, that Shaw coming off the bench, Delalio. What a team that was. What a team that was. Yeah, couldn't agree more. That Wilkinson, Tyndall, Greenwood, and Wilkinson, Tyndall, Greenwood, 10, 12, 13. Wall, human wall. Couldn't agree more there, Rikus. And Rikus says, Carter always had great players around him at the Crusaders and the All Blacks. Wilkinson, not so much beyond 2003. Fair enough. I'll tell you what, Rikus, before I move on, though, I've always said it's harder to play with better players. I think the worst players you play with, you tend to shine more in that environment. But I do see what you're saying. Look, like I said, I've got no respect for Northern Hemisphere rugby, so I can agree with that. But the one thing I will say is great players don't let you hang around if you drop your level. So what it tells you is Daniel Carter came back year after year because Tana Umanga is not tolerating Daniel Carter dropping his level because rather get Aaron Cruden in, right? Like we have no time for it. We've got great guys behind you. We had Tony Brown. So they had great replacements. If, Stephen Donald came in, didn't miss a breath in that first World Cup victory. When was that? 2011, I believe. Carter got injured, remember, in the semi-final. He just came in. Stephen Donald, move on. So, but I hear you. That All Black era was just, what are we? Hey, Nonu, Conrad at 13 there, Howlett, Rokothoko. Oh my gosh. All right, we'll stop there. I think Rick is making some great points there. But it's great to have the Northern Hemisphere rugby back. And how good is it that Scotland are good, by the way? How good is that? So now they've got probably 3 teams. And then if Wales are actually what we saw last week, you got 4 teams now for the first time in forever that are actually worth a damn, right? Because I think France, by the way, DuPont, folks, just do yourself, if you're a rugby fan, do yourself a favor this weekend. I don't watch Northern Hemisphere rugby much. I'll watch Six Nations just because it's in my realm. It's part of my job. But DuPont, who is the French number 9, we have a spectacular one there. Not a good one, because they had Fabien Galtier before. Remember, for those of you who are old like me, 99 to around 2000, Fabien Galtier, the great Fabien Galtier, who is a tremendous, what a player he was. And then they had a dry spell. But now they've got 2 studs. They got him, and there's a young man called Intamak. So his father, the legendary Emmanuel Intamak, of course, of 95, 99 fame in rugby. Oh, my word. That French 9-10, I think Intamak's injured. But folks, if you're a rugby fan and you like maestros, I love scrum halves. Right? I love Gregan. For me, the greatest scrum half of all time. We've got him in Fourie Dopria, and I don't think anyone's close. But this DuPont is an artist. I love Aaron Smith. I think Aaron Smith's the best thing going right now. But DuPont, have a look. If you can catch the France game, France-Ireland should be an absolute cracker at the Aviva. Speaking of which, by the way, my multiplier, go and catch that Betway SA. So I do pick. I've made some picks for the rugby this weekend, some of the boxing, the golf this weekend. I made a golf pick this weekend. So yeah, go and check out the multiplier, Betway SA. Go and support, like, share, subscribe. And we'd like to expand that show a little bit more. The more you support, the more stuff you can see from me and the Polish guy called Ben Karpinski. Well, unbelievably Polish surname, that, by the way. He might be the most Polish man alive. Karpinski. Very, very Soviet. And I let him know that all the time. All right, let's finish off on this. Big games this weekend. I think Liverpool have problems coming this weekend, but I think the big game is City Spurs. There's just there's so many storylines in that. Pep, Jose, obviously that lights the fire, the tag for so much. But I thought I'd pick my starting 11. I'll give you my prediction and I'll let you go for the weekend. City Spurs is going to be an interesting game. I think everybody thinks that it's going to be a runaway game. But let me give you my first 11 and then I'll give you my prediction. Keeper, it's easy. Edison. I've actually never liked Hugo Lloris. Even Edison's too short. So if you haven't heard my policy before on keepers, I like my keepers 193 and taller. 191, I can work with you. That's centimeters. But 193 and taller. I don't like short keepers. Right? Edison's about 188, I believe. That's on the precipice. But Edison's like having a defensive midfielder. It's almost like having Leo Messi at goalkeeper. Then, okay, that makes up for the shortcoming, if you look to use a terrible pun. So Edison at keeper, he's brilliant. Hugo Lloris is a calamity waiting to happen. At right back, Cancelo is the best right back in the league. He's really a footballer. He can play central midfield. He's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. Nothing he can't do. So love Cancelo there. Diaz might be the best centre back in the league at the moment. Virgil van Dijk's injured. This guy's it. My God, what a player! You thought 63 mil. Ooh. But he's been worth every single penny. John Stones, like the Undertaker, rising from the dead. Where's he come from? Where's this guy come back from? We thought, in sport, for me, one thing is you cannot play sport without being confident. John Stones had lost his confidence. It's almost impossible to get it back. So I thought I was dead wrong. Like the Undertaker, risen from the dead. Stones. Zinchenko, not because I rate Zinchenko, I just think Davies is so drab, awful. Spurs have no options on the left side. So Zinchenko gets in purely by default. Rodri is the best holding midfielder in the league. He is. He's everything you want. He controls. He's the metronome. He's tremendous at being the libero as well. He's just the game intelligence and the physicality as well. I love that Rodri gives you that. That's important in the Premier League, and it's important in that role. He can get up and down, and most importantly, he can get side to side to cover for the fullbacks, which is awesome. Gundogan, Bernardo Silva as the other midfielders. I'm playing a 4-3-3. I don't think I need to explain those two choices. Up front, Spurs finally get players in. On the left, Son is, wow. Son. He's quality. He is quality. Harry Kane, purely because Aguero and Jesus are not playing right now. I wouldn't take Harry Kane over Jesus and Aguero in normal times when they're playing, but Kane's doing it right now. Even an injured Kane. Jesus doesn't seem to break into that side. Something's wrong there. I just don't think Pep fancies him. Isn't that ridiculous? Folks, the Brazil starting number 9, Jesus is Brazil's number 9, and Argentina's starting number 9 is Kun Aguero. They're not in the Man City team, and Man City are going to win the league by 15 points. Outrageous. And then on the right, I'd have Foden. So Cancelo, Diaz, Stones, Zinchenko, Rodri, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Son and Kane, and then young Phil Foden, who has been the last 6 months have been phenomenal for him. And against Liverpool, he actually put on a bit of a maestro performance. Out of position. So that's 9 City players, 2 Spurs players. What does that lead me to believe? It should be a walkover. And a lot of people are saying that. Folks, I think Son and Kane will score just because they're that good as a combo. And I think Son is different level. Son could get into Real Madrid. He's that good. He get in Bayern Munich. There's no team that says no to Son. And he goes anywhere and he starts immediately. There are very few players in the world that you can say that about at the moment. It's got to be Man City. 4-2. I've gone with 4-2. I just think City will score. Spurs will score, but City, I mean, my God, Gundogan's all of a sudden Lampard now. I mean, where did that come from? They are unstoppable. And as my manager, I take Pep. He's the greatest manager of all time, and they're on fire. They're unstoppable. They're so flexible. Tactically. If you can deal with 2 or 3 sort of tactical looks as opposition managers, great. City have 5 or 6 options. 3 at the back, 5 at the back, 4 at the back, 2 at the back. He'll even go 2 at the back sometimes and flood the sort of the zone in front of the back too. And then you got the keeper as well, who's, like I say, Ronaldinho at keeper there. Ridiculous. Man City are unbelievable. They are unbelievable. Unbelievable and unbeatable. They're unbeatable. That's what they are. Tremendous side. I think Spurs, that's going to be ugly. Hey, great weekend for sport. I cannot wait. Funny to say this, I'm even looking forward to the Six Nations rugby, which I very rarely could say that about in the past. But I'm just glad to have sports back. And we'll finish off with Rika saying, I will pay money to see Farrell on the losing side. I'd love it. They're playing Italy. Oh my goodness. If Italy beats them, I don't know what I'll do. I will lose my mind. The world will collectively lose its mind if Italy beat England. It'll be awesome. Don't see it, but it'll be awesome. All right, folks, for this week, I'm MKT, and this has been the MKT Show for this week. Thank you very much. Before you go, click that one. If you like the content. If you don't like it, then this didn't even happen. Just erase this from your memory, Men in Black style. But for this week, folks, it has been me, MKT. It has been the MKT Show. Thank you so much for all the support. Just a reminder, by the way, end of the month, we will be going 2 hours a day. That'll be midday to 2 p.m., so we will keep. I'll keep you posted on that. It may be the first, but I'll announce the date as things are rolling out. We're getting closer to finalizing that. 12 to 2. It'll be on this YouTube channel, and of course, we will go multicasting as well. We'll podcast it and the whole shebang, but we'll announce that closer to the time. Cannot wait for that. It's been awesome. The support's been great. If you want to email me, sport@cliffcentral.com, please feel free to do that. But for now, for this week, I'm MKT, the MKT Show on Cliff Central Sport. That's Gareth Cliff, who's physically distancing. It has been an honor and a pleasure this week. But for now, we are the hell out of here.